What a week that was. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Leafs Weekender brought to you by our friends at Boxing Rock Brewing Co. Check out their Puck Off Lagerdale. It's the big beer for the big game. And this week, while there was a lot of games, but not a lot of winning going on, but before we jump into that, guys, Leafs Nation is in a frenzy. Holy smokes. It's Fire Keefe. It's Trey Living sucks. Dubas should have stayed. Hey, did you know with $500K more to keep Ryan O'Reilly and Bunting over Mr. Domi and Bertuzzi? Everything that can be figured out right now is being figured out by Leaf fans and just laid out there on the table. And by the way, I don't care what anyone says. Klingberg, you are a pylon and an iceberg for the Leafs defense. I do not care. That guy, if he's not putting up points, there's no use for him. And if you're running him out there for 25 freaking minutes, holy shit, you're in trouble. Because that guy is not supposed to see 25 minutes.
I told you guys that I wasn't going to get this close, but I'm going to get close. What did we all say at the beginning of the year? This was going to freaking happen. Welcome to Leafs Nation, where everybody hits the panic button.
We're still third in the Atlantic.
I've never heard of anybody hitting a panic button before. I don't know what you're talking about, Dill.
Just smash it. Just smash it.
So who are your top candidates for coach? I've seen Patrick Waugh. I've seen Bruce Boudreau already.
Gerard Gallant.
I mean, they're all there.
Yeah, they're all there. They're sitting waiting. No Babcock. Sorry.
Mike Babcock's available. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's roll through the week that was. So the LA King game, absolute gong show. Leafs come off that road trip where they were pretty successful, by the way. Was a pretty good showing by the Maple Leafs on that road trip, but they come back, they face the Chrome Domes, and they end up just laying an absolute egg. Nothing was cohesive. Passes weren't going the right way. The skating looked like garbage. Everything across the board was just not there. It was insane, that game. It just sucked from start to finish, and it really sucked the life out of Leafs Nation, and that's when the first frenzy of hands reached for panic buttons. But the LA King game, guys, what do you think? Where are your thoughts? Let's break it down just a little bit, because to me, it was a game that was so disjointed, but then was just so swept under the rug. Like, oh, it happens. Let's move on to the next one. You know, that's the way Keefe was about it. And to me, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, there should be some critique here. If your team comes off that road trip, I know you're tired. I know that you're trying to get your legs back at home, but a game like that is just so embarrassing. There's got to be some sort of message sent from the coach, and he basically was just like, no worries, guys, no problem. We got 74 more to go. Don't worry about it. Sweep it away. See you later. That's what he did.
I don't think that's not a very good Sheldon Keefe impression, Jim.
Well, I got to get my own voice on it, because if I went Sheldon Keefe, I don't know, I might be booed out of town too. So,
yeah. Well, if it was Mike Babcock, you would have said, you know what, these are good men and they're good players. But we had a good men. But no, that was a rough one. But you know, the one thing that bothered me the most, and I think you kind of mentioned it, James, kind of got shoved under the rug for some reason. Carlo Koliakovo mentioned it on his show on TSN Radio. He said this was a scheduled loss for the team because they were on a long road trip and this was their first game back at home. And you know what? Those are tough. You know, you get back home and you have a few days, a couple days with your family, and you're spending a lot of time with your family and you're trying to make up for lost time. And, you know, it's a tough one for the guys because it's a scheduled loss. And I just think that's such garbage, to be honest. I mean, it should be the opposite. I mean, you're back at home. You should be refreshed. You should feel good. You should have a couple days of good prep and then get back out there in front of your home crowd for the first time and give a good effort. I was really torn on this one because, like you said, everyone just kind of shrugged it off as if it was normal and not a big deal. And I will say, I mean, let's be honest, guys, LA is a good team. We said this before the season started in our season preview video where we were talking about other divisions and stuff. LA is a good team. They have good players. They have a good group. They have, you know, pretty much a little bit of everything in every category. But John Tavares was the only guy who did anything out there. And it was just disappointing overall to kind of see the effort. And hopefully it was a bit of a wake up call, but let's get into the other games too, because at some point, I know Dylan, you need to say some stuff too, but It was a weird start to the week. And I hope there's more lessons learned from that than it seems that there was.
I'm not gonna lie, like I was at work, of course, like I am normally, but I didn't hear too much ruckus about it. And normally I hear ruckus about a loss. So like it does speak for itself in saying that there wasn't much talk of it after. It looked like a very disappointing game, to be honest. At least Nylander extended his point streak. That was really about it. But I don't know. When I look at Cam Talbot, like, yes, he's an NHL goalie, but I kind of expected more from our team going at Cam Talbot, considering like we were kind of used to playing him when he was here in Ottawa. But, things happen. They were coming off a road trip in quotations. Like, I just see that as an excuse, really. But I really don't know how to feel. Like, LA they're kind of molding into the team that is trying to do what Toronto has done or did this past playoffs. They're trying to get out of the first round too. So they're a very competitive team, and they are very, very deep in the forward group that is. So I didn't expect anything less from LA, but sloppy game from the boys for sure.
Yeah, it's no fun for a game like that. And I don't care about scheduled losses. You come in, you put in your best effort, against a team like LA that you should be able to beat. They talked about all the ways that they could beat them. And then you go in and look at that game and it comes out that effort. I just don't like it. I don't like the optics of it. You come back home, you should be able to get some jump in your step and do some things. And for Sheldon Keefe, put the guys together that are rolling. Because when you come back, you need some energy. Guess who was rolling that night? Noah Gregor. Put him with John Tavares. Guess who was rolling that night? Max Domi had a little bit of pop to his step. Put those three together. Just try to create something to get everyone else rolling. But he's not doing that. And it pisses me off. I mean, I made the post already, and we'll talk about this later on, about the lines I wanted to see. And boy, did I get a Christmas gift, because we're seeing them tomorrow, which is great, except for Robertson. But I look at it and say, that's ridiculous. And then it bleeds into the Boston game because, you started with the Nashville game, went to LA, sloppy start, and then we got the Boston game. And I will tell you this, guys, I harp on this all the time. The face-off thing, Austin Matthews won this many draws against the Boston Bruins. David Kampf, don't even talk about it. Pontus Holmberg, not even on the record. It's ridiculous. How do you not win draws? You are the bottom two face-off guys on this roster for a reason. You're a third energy line for Pontus Holmberg. You want to be in this lineup and stay in this lineup? Well, guess what? You've already lost your spot, by the way, like we're going to talk about. But Pontus Holmberg needs to win those draws, and he wasn't. Guess who did win draws at a very high clip in both of those games? Hello, Max Domi, come on down, because you're 78.6% on the dot this season, and you replicated that last night, which is great for him, and he will be a good third C. But against the Boston Bruins, this is the team you want to measure up against, who is doing really good for some freaked off reason. They lose their two best centers, and they're still 8-0-1 going into that game. Redonkulous. Can this team just friggin' falter already and fall off the earth? It just won't happen. But the Leafs bring nothing first period. The thing with Marchand, which is, I don't care what anybody says, it's Marchand. We know it's Greece, period. He's done these things before. If he hadn't done those things before, it wouldn't be something we focus in on too much. But I also look at it like this and say, if it was any other Boston Bruin player, would we be that mad? Probably not. We'd want a response. And by the way, they had a closed door meeting about the response or lack thereof against the Boston Bruins. They had a closed door meeting to say that wouldn't happen. High last night happened, and I didn't see a whole lot of pop and circumstance out of nobody for when any hit was happening. And I didn't see a whole lot of jam out of anybody, which is what you want to see out of the snot, piss, and vinegar guys who are supposed to be in this lineup. But to go back to the Boston game, they tie it up. The two guys, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, take the team on their back, get it tied up. Hey, we got a point. And that's all anybody was talking about outside of the Marchand thing was, hey, we got a point against Boston. We battled back. Great. Glad to see it. Happy to see it. But you shouldn't have had that crappy of a start.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
for me, James, if I can, yeah, sorry, Dale.
Nope.
This one for me it wasn't as bad. I didn't mind the Boston game in general as much as a lot of people did. I will say that the Marchand thing bothered me, and the thing that bothered me the most about it was we saw a lot of nothing afterwards, a lot of nothing. There was no pushback whatsoever in that regard. But the thing that bothered me the most of all of it was after the game, Sheldon Keefe said, I think there was a quote that I saw, and I was blown away when I saw it, and I saw it late. It was one of those posts when you're from 2 days ago or something, and it pops up for you. And it was Sheldon Keefe, and I think it was, I was frustrated that I didn't see more. And then it said on the lack of response after the Marchand thing. And I was like, Sheldon, that's your job. You're the one that's supposed to tell him to go do something about it. You're the guy who can send Ryan Reeves onto the ice or who can do whatever. And then I saw a quote from Ryan Reeves that was like, yeah, Marchand's just lucky I wasn't out there on the ice with him. It's like, well, get out there on the ice with him. Like tell your coach, put me out there. I'm going to go do something about this. But no, we saw nothing. Now I did see one other quote, and this was the one that kind of settled me down a little bit, was it was from John Tavares, of course, our master of reasoning and logic, and a little bit of a little bit of rationale from the captain, which is probably a good thing. But he said something along the lines of, yes, as a group, we want to be able to push back more, but we also, as a group, know we have to stay disciplined, because if we get into penalty trouble, that's worse than, whatever. And okay. But at the same time, John, come on. It's November. This is the time of the season where you go out and you get suspensions so that later in the season, the message has been sent and you can be more disciplined down the stretch. So to me, I'm calling a little bit of BS on this one. This is the time where you should be pushing back undisciplined. Like, this is the time you're allowed to be undisciplined early in the season. Set the tempo, set the tone, send a message.
That was my argument. That's what I've been saying. Why would you not? You have 30 other teams watching this game saying they just took out one of their defenders and they did nothing to Boston. What are you going to do to me? It's like Ryan Reeves used to say to players, what are you going to do? They're going to do nothing. We know now the Leafs will do nothing. They're spineless. Done. Just go get suspended. So I want to see this. This might. What are we doing later we're doing the week that will be coming up next. The week that will. Someone go get suspended. That's all I want. Whether it's the Bolts, the Sens, the Flames, the Canucks, go do something stupid and get suspended. That's all I want to see this week. I'm telling you guys. So I don't care about the wins. I just want someone to get suspended, and that's the weirdest thing I think I've ever said. Just go and set a damn tone. Show that you guys have pushback. Game 1 and Game 2, what did we see out of the Leafs? We saw them scrumming it up. We saw guys grabbing guys out of the pile. We saw the Eagle, Giordano, flying down and cracking someone. We saw Ryan Reeves getting into scraps and doing the things that we wanted to see out of Ryan Reeves, and that's why we so vehemently defended him on this show about what he was going to bring. And since that point, boy, have we looked like idiots. Because he has done absolutely nothing. Bertuzzi hasn't brought any fight. There's been no hits from anyone. There just hasn't been. It's ridiculous. But, Dilly, what do you think of the Boston game?
Well, this one I actually got to watch, at least majority of it. I caught the first 2 periods, and I left during the third for a little bit. But it was a sloppy first period, 100%. I thought – now, I think the DeBrusk goal was like a fast break. So I think that other than that, like the second period was actually very, very solid. I want to eat my words here in saying that, like, I don't know why anyone ever really doubted the Boston Bruins, because they have a great coach. He knows how to push these players in the right direction. He has found a rookie magically to come up and play in the first line with the big boys. And their goalies are just playing at how they did last year. Like it's frightening, honestly, to be honest. This division I thought was going to break apart from the top 3 of Toronto, Boston, and Tampa. And now I'm questioning everything at this point. but we'll see. Obviously, as the season goes on, I don't know this. I hate Brad Marchand. It's simple as that. But like,
Yeah,
like really, like it's just comical to a certain degree. Like he gets away with so much, even not against the Leafs. Like that's just his demeanor. And sometimes he gets suspended, sometimes he doesn't. But he goes to the limits to see how far he can go with things, and he gets away with it. And that's just how he plays the game. To be honest, I don't think he deserves a C in any league possible, but I don't know. Somehow they just get going. And I hate to say this. I do really hate to say this. I do actually like their jerseys. I think
I actually made this comment the other day in a group chat. I actually love Boston's jerseys this year.
I think it's only like the brown to it. It's really just vintage for me. And I'm just like, this looks great, but I would never purchase one because I tried purchasing a Bobby Orr shirt and I never, ever wore it. I had to give it away. I was just like, I can't do this.
You know, I worked for the Estevan Bruins in the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League for a couple of years, and that kind of slowed me down on my hatred towards the jerseys themselves because I had to love them for a couple of years. Because we had the same jerseys basically, and so like to see their renewed look, really going retro, but also making it kind of modern looking. I actually really like their jerseys this year. I told my Bruins buddy Max, who on TikTok, if you know him, TKD Max BJJ. We're in a group chat and another group chat, and I was like, "Fuck, I kind of like their jerseys a lot this year." And he was like, "I don't blame you."
I hate to say it on our show, but they look great. Honestly, I feel like we really let down Samsonov. And I don't know.
I was going to say that same thing, Dale.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't know if it's we just play better in front of Woll or he has more confidence. So it puts more confidence in the defenseman. But like, to be fair, like Samsonov looked like he was flopping a lot and he wasn't having confidence. So it feels like he wasn't.
Man, Samsonov was one of the players I didn't have an issue with in that Boston game.
But at points you can see that he's out of position and he wasn't last year. Like if something's going from this side to this side, sometimes he's not getting his angles down right and he's getting caught in a bad position. It's nothing on him. Obviously it's something he has to tweak throughout the season, but I know that Leafs Nation is really hard on him right now, and everybody's like, Wolves are number one, no ifs, ands, and buts. He has proved it in 9 games, but
have we talked about the Buffalo game yet?
We're getting there in just a minute.
But at a certain point, like you have highs and lows throughout any season. Every single human being in the league has highs and lows throughout it. I just feel really bad that it looks like the team does better in front of Woll at times, and Samsonov looks like he's getting pushed to the backup role. That's all I really want to say.
We'll see as it goes. I mean, we have 4 games this week, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But I look at the Buffalo Sabres game as a game where you can say Joe Woll came back to earth, so to speak, with a lot of things. But there were a couple goals within that game that I was like, all right, that's not his fault. The one off the shoulder of Tuck, that just is an unfortunate happenstance. Here's my big problem. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, if you're listening, I don't know if you are, but if you ever do,
they are.
Clip,
they watch every single Leafs podcast, actually.
When you are at your own blue line, I'm sure this is taught to you at a very young age. Why, in God's green earth, would you decide, if you're Austin Matthews, to swing it over to Mitch Marner when you see Tage Thompson right there at your own blue line and allow him to go in? By the way, that happened not once, not twice, but 3 times in the playoffs, that exact same play on their blue line, and it led to goals before. Here's the thing. Get it out of your own zone, get it into their area of the ice, and then go ahead and make a pass to your buddy. But don't make a 3-foot pass with Tage Thompson in between you, because bad things happen, and they did. And Woll got scored on, and he knocked it into his own net because he tried to scramble and get it. But that play right there, that was a back-breaking play in that game. because every time the Leafs decided to say, hey, we're going to tie it up, they gave one right back up. They just could not stop the bleeding. And a lot of it was John Klingberg being on the ice for it. Go look back at the goals. He's on the ice. I was like, it seemed like he was on the ice all night. John Klingberg was there. He played over 25 minutes last night. How is that a possibility? He's not providing you anything. And I know you need a warm body, but he's not providing anything. And he was the direct reason the empty net goal was scored. He shot it into the shin pads.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know what? One of the biggest things that picked me off about that empty net goal, and I mean, this isn't the be all end all of why they lost the game. It's the empty net goal, but Nylander was right there, and he kind of just like poked at it and then stopped skating a little bit. Klingberg, had he just taken the body on Tuck, would have allowed William Nylander to at least, even if he didn't knock Tuck down because he's a big guy. But if you would have just bumped into him instead of trying to play the puck with his stick, Nylander would have been able to win the puck race because he would have had enough foot speed to beat Alex Tuck to the puck. So had John Klingberg just played the body, which would have been legal because the puck was right there, it would have at least stopped his momentum enough that William Nylander could have won the puck battle, and at least he would have got the puck back into the zone. They would have had one more chance at it for sure, at least a couple more chances. So that's my biggest gripe with John Klingberg from the game. Yeah, I don't think he had a great game and whatever. And I know that we're going back to the Boston game, but I know that one goal was directly a result of him just kind of not doing anything. And so, like, I'm totally on the Team James here with the whole Klingberg thing, but we have to remember too. Let's just remember, Liljegren wasn't playing, McCabe wasn't playing. Gio had a lot of opportunity or a lot of extra ice time himself. He was, Gio, we love him. He's a third pair guy. He was getting a lot of responsibility.
I think Klingberg's going to be a third pair guy very shortly as well.
Well, he was being a third pair guy. You have to remember when McCabe and Liljegren were in the lineup, Klingberg was on the third pair with Giordano for a while there. So we just got to get some guys healthy, and he will be back down. But we had Max Lajoie and William Legason in the lineup. By the way, not hating William Legason. Can I just say that?
He threw a nice body check there. I like that.
Yeah, he's okay.
He looks like someone else. I don't know who he looks like, but I get like when I just have a first glance at him, he looks like somebody else.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I had similar thoughts. But yeah, no, I don't mind those two guys, but at the same time, that's why Klingberg was getting a ton of ice time. I saw him out there with Morgan Riley several times.
Oh, I know. Trust me. I know why he's getting the ice time. It just sucks that he has to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for sure. And I think this is definitely going to be a good, I guess, eye-opening experience, an eye-opening stretch of time for Brad Treliving, I think, as a general manager to really assess what he has. And you know what? One thing too, if we're talking Klingberg and we're talking, let's get rid of Klingberg or whatever, it's probably not going to happen. And I know we all love to get people out of town as fast as possible in this fan base.
Look how long it took to get rid of Hull.
Well, hey, and I wish he was here.
Me too.
Wouldn't we have liked him this last week? But no, it's probably not going to happen just because that's not how the league works. It doesn't happen quickly. And so many teams are in cap hell right now. To move a $4 million contract is just hard to do. So we'll chill out on that a little bit. I know that me want to diminish his role a little bit and fine. But the one thing too that I've noticed with Klingberg is really interesting is he's billed as this power play guru, this offensive defenseman guru. And I noticed a lot, and I was talking to my buddy, again, I bring up my buddy Dylan, who's not this Dylan a lot, but we're talking about Klingberg, and I noticed a lot on the power play, and he mentioned it at the end of the game, that the guys don't necessarily want to pass to him. Have you guys noticed this? Especially on that empty net goal, Nylander could have passed to Klingberg like 3 times, but he held on to it every single time. And just, it didn't look like he wanted to give it to him. And then as soon as he gave it to him, shot into the shin pads, empty net goal. And I've also noticed several times that, you know how the Leafs patented power play where they get to the blue line, drop, pass it back. I've seen like 12 to 15 times where Klingberg will get to the blue line and pass it forward. And then that player will immediately pass it back. Like they're almost like, no, John, We're not doing that. We're doing
Yeah.
the drop pass. Like he's immune to passing it backwards. He can only pass it forwards. And I've noticed it so many times where like he'll give it to Tavares and Tavares will instantly pass it back to Marner, or he'll give it to like Matthews or whoever, and it'll
Send it to zone
instantly
with
go
speed,
back.
yeah.
And it's like, John, we're doing the drop pass. Stop it. Like that's almost, I can see them saying it almost. And so I just don't know if I said this to you guys earlier. There is a human element to this. It does take longer than we give these guys credit for to acclimate to new teams. Bertuzzi, Klingberg, and Domi have all been on multiple teams in the last 18 months. And there's a lot going on for these guys. And it's hard to say, like, give these guys a bit of some slack, because they're humans too. Because we all expect these guys to be these human robot type of professionals, and why should it be taking them this long? It takes some time for some guys to learn some stuff. And I think Biz Nasty said it. Bertuzzi's a guy who takes 20 games to get going, and then just look out. So I mean, I it's hard to see it from that lens, but I think as a fan base, at the same time, I think we all need to kind of take a step back and just say, you know what? These guys have been traveling a lot. They've been seeing a lot of new environments. They've been in 3 or 4 different systems in the last couple of years each. And we need to just let them kind of settle in. And that's harder to do than it's easier to say than do. But I'm trying to do that myself a little bit.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
As you guys were chit-chatting there, I was watching the highlights. And yeah, Klingberg was on literally on the ice for every single goal. Like, really
James nailed it. No, James isn't wrong.
No, I didn't get to watch the games, and I forgot to watch the highlights yesterday. So it's kind of sad seeing that.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I think Connor Timmins can really usurp him as the player that we wanted him to be. I think Connor Timmins will be that guy once he's back and healthy, and it looks like he's about a week away from joining regular practices. So I would love to see him. It does sound like Timothy Liljegren will be a while till he comes back. We'll talk about him on the GBU. But guys, that was the week that was. The week that will be is a busy one for the Maple Leafs. Obviously, Bolts, Sens, Flames, and Canucks. We'll go around the table here and we'll see what everybody's record is. I'm going to kick it off first. I'm going to say 2-1-1 for the Maple Leafs this week. I think they beat the Bolts. They beat the Sens. They get a point out of the Flames game, and then they lose to the Canucks because Canucks are absolutely a wagon. But I think the Flames will put up a test. And when a team's going through some things or needs something to happen, it seems like the Leafs are that tonic that comes in and allows a team to get a victory or fix something that's ailing them. So I think the Flames will use that to their advantage and hang one on the Leafs there. But I think the Leafs will battle enough where they get at least 1 point out of it. So 2-1-1 for me. Clarky Monroe, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say 2-2 just kind of feels right. Very similar, though. I would love to see them have a couple of really good games against the Bolts and the Sens specifically. And then whatever happens against those Western teams, it is what it is. But I would really like to see them kind of, after what we just saw for a week against Boston and Buffalo, to come out against 2 more division rivals, who are also having ups and down seasons. It's a weird season for the Sens. There's a lot going on with them. And the Bolts, the whole Stamkos thing, there's all this, stuff going on with them, but they're still Tampa. I would like to see 2 really good games against them. And like I said, just go get suspended against the Flames and the Canucks. Somebody do something, go get suspended. Just do something interesting.
Do it against the Sens, the pesky Sens.
Or that,
there
sure.
should be a fight.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just do something to spark something. But if they could have really, really good games just against the Bolts and the Sens, I'll be happy for the week.
Go ahead, Jilly.
I want to say 2-1-1, but I honestly, no, I can't. No, I don't know. I was gonna say we seem to fail against the Senators, but Korpisalo is shit in the bed right now, so I can't even say that.
The whole team is in trouble, man.
Yeah.
Dark Cloud returned.
The Bolts, I think we can get more past what's his face. Yeah, I'll go 2-0-2. I'll be different.
Ooh. All right. We'll see who is right when it comes around to next week. But speaking about who is right, our friends over at the Hockey Podcast Network. They got a deal going on with our buddies over at DraftKings, and we have this beautiful script that I need to read, but unfortunately it's not loading, which is always a great thing. So Dylan, if yours loads before mine loads, feel free to do the ad read, but I will just chitter-chattering until it goes. Yeah, absolutely crazy. But one thing I want to touch on before I do the ad read here is our guy, we talked about him, Mark Giordano, actually had to have a quote-unquote rest day today because he was doing too much and he's tired. They said they gave him the day off just to feel good and be ready and refreshed for the next set of games. What do you guys think of that while this thing loads up?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of mentioned earlier. He got a lot of ice time last couple of games with injuries, so I don't mind this at all. I kind of hope they would give him a game off here and there. I think we talked about this before the season started with him this year. It's just there's been too many injuries, so that's not possible right now. But it'd be really nice if they could give him a night or two off in the next stretch here, just so they don't burn him out too early, and then we get to what we saw at the end of the year last year, where he just looked burnt out. And a good Mark Giordano will go a long way for this team down the stretch and into the playoffs. He is still a very important player. I think he can still provide a lot of value. And he just needs to not be shoved into a situation where he's playing 25 minutes a night. He needs to be a 16 to 20 minute a night guy at this point in his career. And I think he'll be very productive and very valuable.
Dilly?
Yeah. I think Gio's at the point where he can hop up in times during the season, and then I think we got to diminish it just before the playoffs and then kind of push it again. But Gio's a freaking warrior, man. The guy is 40 years old and still playing in the league
he's a Gronk
filled with boys half his age. He knows how to play, and he's a gamer for sure. I know he was a late bloomer too, but definitely utilize him when we can. And if he starts to slack off a bit, then cut the minutes a bit.
Yeah, well, speaking of slacking off a bit, let's slack off on the script here for our friends over at the Hockey Podcast Network. We got it now. They got partnered up with DraftKings. The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger than Giordano playing late into his 40s. Bet $5 on any game this week and score $200 in instant bonus bets. Any DraftKings offer is not stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this November. Get in on the DraftKings greatness. DraftKings, download the app. Sportsbook through now. Use the code THPN. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's the code THPN. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is yours. For your problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino NKS. Licensee partner of the Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, LA, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football for terms, eligibility, and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. And by the way, during the entire ad read, my screen was shaking because Slack is not loading properly. So all the words were going like this. So it was bouncing me around. So there we go. Get in there. Hit the code THPN with DraftKings. You know what it is. Get her done. Get her over with. Let's swing around to the GBU, the good, the bad, the ugly. The good this week, Austin Matthews. I'll say that. He leads the league in goal scoring right now. Looking good again. Needs to get that face-off prowess down just a little bit better. You can't go on a big goose egg for an entire game. That doesn't look so good.
Yo, I saw that Ryan Reeves had a higher percentage than Austin Matthews.
Oh,
he won one.
Listen, hey, Ryan O'Reilly, by the way, too, scoring all these goals. Calm down, okay?
Yeah.
Go somewhere with yourself. I know it's not sustainable, But
It
anyways.
helps being on the top line, you know.
Austin Matthews, my friend, I would say is the good this week. Anybody else got something good for the Maple Leafs?
Yeah,
Oh.
one guy I wanted to just kind of shout out. You mentioned him earlier in the show that he was kind of clicking a little bit. I'm really liking Noah Gregor, and maybe this is my WHL bias because he's a WHLer, he's a champion
There's no
in
bias.
the WHL. I've seen him a lot in junior. I saw him a lot, and I just feel like he's fitting a lot of what they need in that bottom six. And he scored the first goal of the season for the team. Just going to throw that out there. But I love his speed. I love, he's got a good forechecking sense, and I think he's got a lot to offer this team. So I really do like what he's offering so far. You haven't seen him maybe get scrappy yet, but I think that element is there in him, and I think it'll come with time. The more he gets gelled with this team, the more chemistry he has with the team. I think you'll maybe see that side come out a little bit more, that Western Canadian blue collar part of him. But I think what he's shown so far is that he deserves to be on that fourth line at least. And I would even argue by, this week, we talked about this week that will be, he might supplant Holmberg on that third line, even depending on how things go. If they don't call up Robertson or somebody like that. But I really do like the idea of him in the fourth line at least, and I think he's fitting really well.
He definitely has speed when he'd be on a fourth line that lacks it very much. My good is the continuous streak of William Nylander. That man, I thought he was gonna shit the bed, but we all know in contract years, somebody has to step up. So Willie knew that it was his time to shine. So I'm actually curious how long this streak is going to go, but that's my good for the week.
All right, my bad in this one here, it's the PK. The PK has been something that I've been jumping on. Now, they looked a little bit better last night, but still got scored on. That PK is the bottom half of the league. I think they were 24th last night going into the game. They were as far down as 27th, which I know 3 spots doesn't sound like a lot, but in the NHL, it definitely is. And those points percentages, really, when you start dropping like that, it's goals being scored on you. Those are literal reasons why your point percentage is going down. So I look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and say the PK, which was very middle of the pack last year, I would take that right now to what it is right now. I know they want to integrate Matthews. I know they want to integrate Marner more. I know they're using Willie and different guys, but you need PKers. And you're talking about a guy like Noah Gregor. That's a guy that I want to see there. Staple him beside Kampf and make that your PK. Kampf wins the draw. Gregor does all the work, grinds it off the wall, whatever you need to do. Jake McCabe, I know he's not there, and he's one of their big PK defensemen, but the PK is sorely been out of sorts all season long, and that for me is the bad, because if your special teams cannot bail you out, your games are going to be long, and we've seen it so far this season.
Yeah, and I mean, James, I said an X factor before the season started. I think it was on that episode that we had a guest on. We were talking about X factors, but I said that the PK was going to be one of those things. If they could get back to the way that they were 2 or 3 years ago, where they had a top 10 penalty kill. And last year it slipped away a little bit, and then, like you said, this year it's been kind of weak. I'm going to put David Kampf in my bad this week. Something about this guy, it doesn't seem like he's really contributing a whole lot, and there's a lot of people calling for him. It's happening already. He's off the third line. He was on the third line there for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
He's
not a third liner.
He's been a non-factor, and I'm hoping that putting him back on the fourth line gets him back in the element that we saw him in last year, where he was so productive and good and reliable down there. Maybe his faceoffs come back. Maybe that penalty kill prowess comes back. I don't know, but whatever was going on that third line was not working with him. And I'm glad to see they've made the change, because it just nothing was happening. It was almost giving me Pierre Engvall vibes. Remember my Pierre Engvall thing was that just like nothing happened when he was on the ice. Sometimes that's okay because it means the other team's not doing much. But in this regard, it was just not like nothing was happening at all.
No, it was bad. I fully agree with you on David Kampf. I mean, I look at him like this too, Clark. I didn't mind what he was being paid previous years, and it brought the value. But for him, it's like Yarncroke, okay? Same thing. He is not a top line first winger. He's not. But if you put him on a third line and sometimes elevate him up and down a little bit to the second line, you can get your value out of Cal Yarncroke because he's going against lesser competition. Mm-hmm. Same thing with David Kampf. You're playing him more minutes and you're trying to make a line work that isn't working. Nyes, Kampf, and Domi. It had a little bit of pop, but nothing, sustainable. And now he's gripping his stick too tight because he's trying to figure out how to play with these offensive guys when his bread and butter is being a defensive style player. That's what he is. He's not an offensive guy. He'll chip in every now and then. But on the fourth line, it gives him that ability to be that guy. Slap him with Gregor, like I just said about the PK, but have him on a regular line with him too. Maybe he also allows Ryan Reeves to go out and do his thing, throw some hits. Having another defensive-minded player on that line, just kind of backing him up. If he goes and misses a big hit, at least Gregor and Kampf will be there to pick him up. So, yeah, I agree with you. Moving him down to where he thrives is great. It just sucks you're paying him $2.5 million to do it.
Yeah. James, what was your bad again?
My bad was the penalty kill.
PK. Okay. I don't really think I have a bad this week. I think the ugly's kind of obvious here this week.
Yeah, the ugly is the losses and the attitude and just the whole demeanor. It started with the LA game where Keefe was like, let it go, throw it away, it's okay, no problem. Then it bled into the Boston game where, again, the demeanor was, Liljegren got tripped, but it's all right. We'll get him next time. Don't worry about it, boys. We'll see Marchand later. That's exactly the attitude. It was just like the loss. It was like, meh, doesn't really mean it. We don't need to do anything. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's basically the way that it felt to me. Like they just looked at it like, meh, it's Marchand. So I've heard this quote from Leaf players. It's what he does. It's who he is. We know that. Well, then do something about it.
Yeah.
Just do something. Just make me happy. Knock him on his ass. That's
I guess there's the argument of like that's what he wants you to do. So maybe that plays into it a little bit. But like I said earlier, I already went on a rant about this.
Show a response.
Just do something. Come on, guys. But
yeah, that's the ugly. That's definitely.
Yeah, my ugly is very similar to that, and I'm just going to throw it all on Sheldon Keefe. I think he's there. The team in general has had an okay, fine start to the season. But I'm looking at Sheldon Keefe. I'm hearing these quotes from him like I was expecting more or we need more from guys. And it's like, again, I said this earlier, but like that's your job, Sheldon. Yeah. And I don't know what it is this year. I've given him a lot of credit in the past for how the team has been. This year just feels like something's missing and I don't know what it is. Not sure. But I feel like we need more from Keefe. And that's in his role as a head coach, not anything else. He's been doing a good job. And we've talked about the video challenges this year. Like we've seen some stuff where he has been doing okay, but in terms of getting the guys up to go, I feel like that's at an all-time high right now of an all-time low, I should say, an all-time low of just having the guys ready, having the mentality, something about the mentality is off. Like you said, the attitude. And I feel like it's kind of on him. And that's the biggest thing that I've been noticing this year.
I want to kind of build off of that comment there. I kind of noticed that like it feels like he's given up in a sense. Like he's just like
shrugs his shoulder.
Sure, whatever. And I don't know if there's some clash with Tree Living or what, but it just seems like he doesn't have as much care as he used to. And whatever's going on, obviously we don't know, but like I sure as hell hope he smartens up because we need somebody to push the boys late in this season and going into the playoffs. So if he doesn't want to provide that, I'm sure Tree Living doesn't have a problem with firing him. But
yeah, I'm not going into the fireboat just yet, but I think there definitely needs to be a surgery done to his motivator cuff because he's not motivating anybody. Yeah. He's sitting there. Like it, yeah, it just doesn't seem like you have the opportunity to set the tone with the Marchand situation. You have the opportunity to change the line, bench guys. You bench Bertuzzi, great for you, but there's other guys that probably should have been benched before him. But, there's things that you should do. And then again, he walked back some of his comments about Bertuzzi yesterday. So I don't know. The bite and the snarl just isn't there right now.
And it's
And he
not the
really
first
needs
time
to
he's
fix
walked
it.
back comments either, James. He's walked back
Nope.
comments before. So I
So
don't know.
maybe it was on him last year that he did it on his own accord and it wasn't Dubas. But anyway, that is the ugly. That is the GBU. Hopefully we have a better one next week where the uglies just because someone scored such a sick goal that we all got sick about it. It's crazy. But we'll see. But we'll go off the glass. The off the glass one for me this week is Patty Kane. A lot of rumors swirling about Patrick Kane, where he may go. He's working out and doing all this stuff in Oakville. Apparently there's a meeting between some brass members of the Maple Leafs and a couple of players. See how that shakes out. The Leafs don't exactly have cap space, but I'm sure if they needed to make a deal work, they could figure it out.
Bye,
And they can get
Klingberg.
something creative done. Well, I mean, if you need to find a way to fit Patty Kane on your roster and he says, hey, I want to play with you guys, what do the Leafs need right now, guys? A little bit of what? Depth scoring. And Clark, I said to you, a fun line would be Robertson, Domi, and Kane. What better mentor for Patty Kane?
Well, Patty Kane and Domi played really well together in Chicago.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's a good sign that they're putting Domi at center this week to kind of get that going, and maybe that's why. Who knows? And let's be really, really honest with that line. Pontus Holmberg is like 150% a placeholder on that line. Like, that is not
Nicky Bobby's on his way. Nicky Bobby.
Well, that or Patrick Kane, but like, I really do think that Patrick Kane, if he's going to sign in Toronto specifically, I think he's taken like a very low deal. I think he just wants to play
1 year, 1 mil.
Or even less. Like, I really think guy's made $100 million in his career. He's going to be okay. I think he's in a situation with his health, his age, that I think he just wants to go to a spot he thinks he has a really good shot to contribute and win. And I think, like you said, James, he's seems like a really nice fit there. I think he'd make it work if that's what he wants. So I can see him getting
the ability to float a guy like Patty Kane up and down your lineup too. You know, because he can play with skilled guys. So if you want to overload your power play, and just say Morgan Riley's not the guy you want on there right now, then just move one of those big guns to the point, which would be Matthews or Marner, and then you can run Tavares, Nylander, Kane up front, right? Just run a full five, and Sheldon Keefe has done it before. 5 forwards on the power play. So, I mean, if you have that weapon at your disposal, like, use it. Just use it and abuse it. And he'll be a little bit fresher too because he's had some time off to heal and get perfectly healthy. So, you know, it may take him a little while to A, get into practice, B, get up to rolling, but I mean, that could be, just imagine, man.
Nothing would be better than the best American to pass it off to the next best American.
All right, you're talking about Phil Kessel or Patrick Kane?
Hey, let's get Phil Kessel back too.
He's looking for a deal too.
I'll take
Phil Kessel at $775, Kane at $1 million. You get rid of Holmberg, you get rid of Reavers. You just start bringing
Reavers.
We're getting rid of Reeves.
I would say Yarncroke.
Whoa! Don't touch my Yarny boy.
Yarncroke makes the money work if Kessel's coming back. So
hell yeah!
Oh man! All right,
keep the iron streak rolling.
Jesus, yeah.
I got one for off the glass here before we move on, if that's cool. It also has to do with a former Blackhawk. Just came out today that another player has apparently put out a lawsuit on the whole Brad Aldrich situation, from the Chris Beach situation.
I didn't get the deep dive on it, so I didn't want to touch on it without.
I think it's pretty fresh, and I'm just going to mention it. We don't have to go into it necessarily, but it sounds like the team suppressed his complaint in that Stanley Cup run, and so this is just going to be the Chris Beach thing all over again. It doesn't look good, doesn't sound good, makes the Blackhawks look even worse, and so just keep your eyes on that in the next little while.
Yeah, it's another one of those things where I look at it and say, you docked Ottawa a first-round pick for a paper mistake, a fax mistake, and you've done nothing of circumstance to the Chicago Blackhawks, but gift them yet another generational fucking talent.
I saw a hilarious tweet. Somebody was like, well, I guess Chicago's getting Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, they'll be awarded Ottawa's draft pick for some reason. Like the draft pick that Ottawa loses, they'll just give it to Chicago for some reason.
Yeah,
just dumb.
My off the glass is, we all knew that San Jose was bad. We all expected them to be in the basement, but we did not expect them to be that far down. I cannot believe the outrageously terrible games from them. Like,
Did
they
someone
are
tell them this
making
isn't the
the
Connor
Arizona
Bedard year?
Coyotes be a name. Like, it is sad. It's going to be a long stretch for those San Jose fans.
It does
They are
not.
on they are on double retention trade deadline watch already. Like,
Yeah.
I could see some guys getting moved early, and they need a lot of retention because they have a lot of bad contracts right now.
Yeah,
but I think there's
terrible.
some guys that could be good, but it's not a good look. They have fallen so far from what they were for a while. It's crazy.
I feel bad for the goalies there, man.
Mackenzie Blackwood. Oh, he went there to resurrect his career. Not going so hot.
I forget who the other one is.
Stolars, is it?
Maybe it is.
In San Jose. It'll come to me.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But anyways, that is off the glass.
Kokkonen. Kokkonen?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Kokkonen.
Kokkonen. Kakkonen? Yeah.
Kakkonen,
him.
Kokkonen, something.
It's him.
Something in
That
it.
one.
That guy.
Yeah. He was in Minnesota for a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, he's over there now. Oh, well, you know what? Listen, you got to be bad to get good, and that's what they're doing. So, tip the cap to them. They're doing it the right way.
They're doing
being
it right.
Very bad.
Yeah, they're doing it right.
All right.
Yeah.
The off the glass segment will be a little bit bigger as this thing rolls along, but we talked a lot about the week that was. There's a lot of meat on the bone on that one, so that took up a lot of the air today. But we're going to do a little Cowan and Minton watch. Just going to touch on these two prospects pretty much every weekend because the way that they play and the way that we like to talk about them. Easton Cowan, I just want to point out this young man so far in 10 games this season has 18 points, 7 goals, 11 assists. Not looking too shabby. He's in Dylan's neck of the woods. And I want to talk about Fraser Minton because he's played 2 WHL games, 2 points, and got the C. So 2 players right there that I'm pretty impressed with. And I want to do Cowan and Minton watch every week because obviously you want to see how these players are doing because I firmly believe Clark and Dylan, these 2 guys will be Maple Leafs next year as long as Easton Cowan keeps progressing the way that he should and as long as Fraser Minton keeps growing into the player that he is. I think he will be a nice third-line player for the Maple Leafs. And Easton Cowan, we don't know exactly where he'll be, but I definitely think he'll be something the Leafs can use as well.
Yeah, they're going to need cheap guys next year, cheap young guys, and I think with Fraser Minton getting some time already, he'll definitely be probably in the lineup next year. And I think with Cowan, you might see him kind of get 9-gamed or maybe 40-gamed, like Leon Draisaitl back in the day next year. But I could totally see it with the way the team is kind of, especially with Nylander's contract, if he gets renewed and they have to give him a good payday. I could definitely see them going cheap and young with a couple spots next year, and those guys would be prime candidates for it.
100%. Dilly, you got anything to add?
Just be on the watch out for what London's going to do this year. They picked up last year's OHL goalie of the year, I do believe, in Mason Simpson, and I think he is from this neck of the woods. He was playing for, I think it was Guelph last year, who ended up beating them in the OHL finals and went on to the Memorial Cup. He looks really, really good, really, really confident goalie. This team is looking to make a strong push this year. So just watch out for them. I know it's very competitive. I think it's a Western league or division. So yeah, it's very entertaining hockey. I wish I could catch more, but Friday nights I'm not always available.
No worries. So that is the Cowan and Minton watch. Obviously, some things going on with both those players, getting some points on the board, and then of course Fraser Minton getting back into the dub, getting the C. 2 games in, 2 points, not too shabs. In the last part of the show on Weekender, we do the Boxing Rock Bearded Blue Warrior. I'll save mine for last. Dilly, who is your Boxing Rock Bearded Blue Warrior this week?
My Bearded Blue Warrior this week. I'm going to go with, I think last week it was this guy, so I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to use William Nylander. This guy's staying consistent on a year that means the most to him. And I think it's very important, obviously, for his well-being, but it pushes us in the right direction as well. Whether or not we re-sign him or not, is what it is, honestly. But hopefully he can help us make a great push at the end of this season.
All right. Clarky, who's your boxing rock bearded blue warrior?
I'm going to go with Ilya Samsonov, and the reason I'm going with Sammy is because he came out a couple weeks ago and said he was having some really tough mental health struggles. He wasn't good, even though he said he was. I can feel you there, Ilya Samsonov. I've been there. I've been down that road. I know how you feel. And I think just with him coming out and having a really good game against Boston, it's a good sign that, maybe he's starting to feel how he was last year a little bit, where we all said so many good things about him last year and his strong performances. So I'm hoping for a good kind of path for him, and that he's feeling better, and that things are good in his world. So I'm going to go with Ilya on this one for this week.
All right. Well, mine is not going to be anything to do with the Maple Leaf organization, I guess, player-wise. Mine is going to be the entire sporting world. We lost a young man named Adam Johnson to a horrific injury, but he was not lost in the memories of everyone who plays any sport, whether it be basketball, football, soccer, hockey, you name it. Every single league has been touched by this story, and you saw the soccer crowd with the big banner, everybody going nuts in the stadium, pumping it up for him. All the different teams, having a jersey night or a moment of silence. Same thing with basketball, and lots of players reaching out and just talking about it. For me, it's the sporting world as a whole, because obviously hockey was hurting over that horrific scene that unfolded, and the entire sporting world came together and showed not only their love, for our game, but also for that player, his family, friends, during a very tough situation. And, they made it known that he is not, just gone, that everyone does remember him and are celebrating his life and accomplishments and all the things that he's done, and really just putting it on a world stage, to keep his memory going and just show support. So I love the fact that the sporting world has come together. It just sucks that it has to be over such a sad situation. But my boxing rock bearded blue warrior goes to the sporting world for showing out for Adam Johnson and, his family, friends, and everyone that he has touched along his way through his career and life. I think that's a fitting one.
That's a good note. I on that note, I wanted to say props to the CHL, all of the leagues across, for making neck guards mandatory now because of the devastating injury. Well, death. Sorry, I should say.
Well,
you know what? JHL as well, by the way. Sask Junior Hockey League included.
There you go.
The Junior A leagues have also done that. So there you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? Tip to the cap to the OHL and the QMJHL, as they had already mandatoried.
Yeah, I just read that WHL joined too.
Yeah, so now it's all the leagues, all the CHL leagues. But I liked as well the Ontario, the OHL fined a couple of teams for players not wearing their neck guards and adhering to the protocol of equipment that needs to be worn. So again, another good thing that comes of such a horrific situation is there will be new cut guard technology. There will be, this coming in from the grassroots. And I touched on this in the solo episode I did, but you bring it into the grassroots level, it will feed its way up and be just another normal piece of equipment that everyone wears. And if you can protect your ankles, wrists, and neck, I think you should do it, because it doesn't matter how cool or stupid you look. It's all about safety.
Yeah.
Your mother always told you to put a jacket on when it was cold, and you thanked her because you didn't end up getting sick. Yeah. So it's a little bit of that forward thinking that sometimes saves your arse in the long run. But ladies and gentlemen, this right here, this is the Leafs Weekender, and it's Offside Hockey Talk, where the Maple Leafs and hockey come to talk. Woo!